Today on Locked On Angels, we get you set for the 2-game series against the Texas Rangers. It's kind of like a revenge tour, right, John?
That's right.
We're gonna go at them. We're also going to talk about Anthony Rendon and his play at the plate and at third base on defense. And we ask this question: do we appreciate Shohei Ohtani? You're Locked On with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. We're, of course, free and available wherever you get your podcast. If you're listening on the audio side, you can rate and review the pod. And if you're watching on the video side, you can subscribe and click the bell to be notified every time a new episode hits.
Hello. Welcome to another edition of Locked On Angels. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
We're excited about today's series, the revenge series against the Texas Rangers. Mike, we got swept last week by the Rangers, 3 games, and I'm hoping for some dubs as big as the A on my hat. We need some big W's this week, and I think that we can take them from Texas. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we have an opportunity to do that, and good news is that we are a few games over 500 at home and on the road, and we are actually playing at home against Texas, and so we've got the Angel fans on our side. We've got the at-home cooking on our side, and we have everything that we need. And so it would be great to take these 2 games. I don't want to split this series. I think we should take these 2 games.
We're not playing in the Grand Canyon, a.k.a. Globe Life Field, which is, I don't know if it's the camera angles in that field and that new stadium, but man, it feels like you're a million miles away when you're watching it on TV, and that field just feels huge. So
what is it with Texas baseball stadiums, right? Maybe, I guess everything's big in Texas, right? Because you go to Houston and it's like a puzzle piece, but it's massive. And then in Texas with the Rangers, you play them and it feels like you're hitting into the Grand Canyon because it's just so spread out, right?
That pitcher's camera angle, the center field camera, does not help anything because it feels, like I said, a million miles away. It's like the default setting on MLB The Show. I always turn that off and get much closer to the pitcher.
Where you have to pause the game and you have to go into settings and you have to reset it because you just can't hit or pitch. I thought I threw a curveball at the corner, but it ends up bouncing at the plate, right?
So we talked about this sweep last week. What happened? What went wrong for the Angels last week? Let's talk about it. What do you got for me first?
Well, the first thing is we've noticed this with the starters. When the starters don't go 5 innings, we really seem to struggle. And I think that's the indicator on if we're actually going to be successful in a game. We got to get to the 5th inning. And I'm saying, like, not even getting pulled in the 5th inning, but getting through that 5th inning is such an essential to beating the Rangers, because that is going to show that we've actually been in the game the whole time, that our starters are not struggling, and they're going to be able to create a natural bridge to the bullpen, right?
It does help that we have Archie Bradley back for this series. Of course, he's coming off the IL. He got a few games in down in the minors, just a couple of rehab assignments. And that goes into the next point, is the bullpen struggled to get outs. And we had to rely on a lot of guys who weren't in their correct spots. We talked about Mike Myers being in there and how his role this season has seemed to be the low leverage guy. I know we've used him in higher situations before, but he just doesn't seem to have what he had at the end of 2020 anymore. So he seems to be more of a low leverage guy. And of course, we had to use him in a crucial situation against the Rangers last week. And so it is good to have Archie Bradley back. We've got a refreshed bullpen in terms of Aaron Loup, Ryan Tepera, Raisel Iglesias have all had the day off on Monday, so they should be raring to go. And Raisel has returned to form. Raisel looks like he does every time he goes out there, as opposed to those couple innings where he struggled last time.
What's your ideal bullpen, John? Is it Bradley, Tepera, Loup, and Raisel, or do you have a different shuffle of bullpen pitchers as like say for today's game? Like, what would you do now that Bradley is off the IL? How would you ease into that? What would you set up the bullpen as?
I think you start with Bradley, and I think that him and Tepera could be interchangeable, but I also think that if you've got Aaron Loup coming in and he's coming in against a lefty. I think obviously that's his best situation, and he can pitch against right-handed people, and he wants to do that. But if he's going to struggle against righties, I think you could do some sort of combination of Bradley, Tepera, and then Rysel. So for 7, 8, and then 9, that could work out well. But if the starter has to come out after 5, you could do something like a Bradley, Tepera, Loop, Rysel, in my opinion.
Where does Oliver Ortega fit into that rotation for you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think if you're tied or even up by a run or down by a run, I think that he does really well in close situations. And he usually comes in when you need maybe an inning and 2/3 or maybe 2 extra innings. I think that he is somebody who can come in when the starter doesn't quite reach where they need to be. If they're out by the 4th or the 5th, then that's where Ortega can come in and kind of complete the rest of that starter's session, if you will.
Yeah. I think that if I'm Joe Madden, I'm going to have Bradley play the Ollie Ortega role in this series. And then I'm going to have Ortega, Tepera, and Loop. And I think that those 2 guys at the end, Tepera and Loop, are interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I want to ease Bradley, at least in this series, into his rhythm and where I want him to play in the bullpen. And then eventually I think I go with what you said first. I think I have Bradley, and then I have Tepera, and then I have Loop, and obviously Rysel is going to close the game. But Ollie Ortega has proven to be somebody that we can count on. I wonder if it's better for him to not always be that guy, but maybe him and Bradley are interchangeable pieces in that, let's say, 5th inning, 6th inning role. That feels good to me as a fan if they're coming in at that point, because I'm confident that they're going to hold the lead or they're going to hold the game and give us an opportunity to win.
Yeah, one last note about that series last week. We just didn't have the clutch hitting that we needed in that one.
Yeah.
Lots of opportunities to score and didn't quite deliver in those moments. And we put the pressure on Texas enough to come back in some of those games. But unfortunately, we were just not able to capitalize. So if we had to break it down for a couple of things that need to go right, I think number 1, we got to have a quality start. We can't have Noah Syndergaard not getting out of the first inning. And he can't pay attention to the runners on base as much as he has. He's got to be focused on both the hitter at the plate and be able to pick off or throw out or at least tease getting somebody out at first. He's got to be able to focus on both. He can't just be on one or the other. I think that's a key part to this series. What's another one, Mike, that we need to do this series?
I think that they have to watch how many walks they give up, because that seems to be the killer of the Angels starting staff. And even in the bullpen, like, we need to get outs when they give us the opportunity to get them out, right? Like, if it's a ground ball, then let's scoop that up. And if it's a 1-2 pitch, let's not go to 3-2. Like, let's finish the at bat. Let's get outs when necessary, right?
Absolutely. Now, we've got another pitching matchup against Dane Dunning, and he's going to go up against Syndergaard. Dunning is somebody that we can manage very well. Historically, we hit very well against him.
Yeah.
And especially early on in the game. And so I don't see us having a problem there. We just got to get to him early, and that Angels offense really needs to attack and support Thor. If they can get him a lead by the end of the first, and so that he can come back in the second and cruise a little bit, I think that would be helpful to Syndergaard, in my opinion.
Yeah, we've done really well in that first inning in scoring runs, and we're leading the American League in runs scored. And so I think that is something that would be essential in this series. And then for Wednesday's game, it's Glenn Otto against Reed Detmers. And I looked up a stat, John. Did you know that those that pitch a no-hitter normally, on average, struggle in that second game?
It's so strange, but yeah, they do.
Isn't that interesting? And then it's that third game that Reed Detmers will be pitching on Wednesday that they find their form again. And so I'm hopeful that we'll see, I'm not going to say no-hitter Reed, but I think we'll see his stuff. We'll see that classic Reed Detmers, right? And I'm hopeful that he can go 6, maybe even 7 innings that night. And if he does, that'll be exciting.
Yeah, it'll be good to have that version of Reed Detmers back and correct what went wrong last week and do it right against the Rangers this week. I agree.
Coming up on Locked On Angels, do we appreciate Shohei Ohtani? John and I think so, and we're going to tell you why. But first, Locked On Angels is brought to you by BetOnline, isn't it, Jonathan?
It is brought to you by BetOnline. Check out BetOnline for your number one source for all your betting and sports info. You're going to find all of the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's NBA playoffs, which are hot, hot, hot. And of course, this season's Major League Baseball season, which is rolling on into the end of May here. So there's a lot to pay attention to, and BetOnline is your number one source for all of it, for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. So head to their website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. BetOnline is where the game starts.
And we appreciate you making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. And now for your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. You get recaps of all the MLB games with analysis from our Locked On experts. John and I have been a part of that, and it's so much fun. Well, when the Angels win, it's fun, not when they lose. But we're taking fans through the season like no other network, and it's free and available wherever you get your podcasts.
We want to take this time to talk about Anthony Rendon. But before I do that, if you're watching on the YouTube side, Mike, you look like Joe Madden. I love it.
I'm wearing my blue light glasses. It's been a headache day, too much computer day. So I just want to be like you, John. You know the song, right. I want to be like Mike. I'm changing it. I want to be like John.
Well, hey, listen, we wanted to have this conversation about Anthony Rendon because you and I are of the opinion that he is a positive contribution to this team.
Oh,
and
heck yeah.
Not trying to be a homer, but you and I have watched Angels baseball for a long time. And we've seen our share of stinkers, and we do not believe that Anthony Rendon is stinking it up out there. So let's talk about him. There's talk about his performance and how he's been doing on the field. But let me just talk about some of his offensive stats. Now, The batting average is at 239, which is not the kind of average you would want to see from a guy like Anthony Rendon. But we know that he historically starts out the season slow. He even did it in 2020 during the shortened season. It took him a little while to come around. And of course, that season was 60 games. We are going to be playing a lot more than that this season.
Right.
5 home runs is pretty good for Anthony Rendon. He's not historically a big-time home run hitter. In fact, most of his production comes from those extra base hits. We call him Tony Two Bags for a reason. But he's got 22 RBIs, and that puts him toward the top of RBIs on this team. We know Brandon Marsh and Ohtani and Trout are currently leading in those categories in terms of RBIs. He's got a 333 on base percentage.
Yeah.
And you can see that he demonstrates that every time he's at the plate because he's got a lot of patience and he takes walks. And that's one thing I really like about Rendon. And he's got a 742 on base plus slugging percentage.
Wow.
And 57% of his batted balls are to center field, which is the highest in his career. We always say that he's got the warning track power curse because the dead balls are just killing him this season because I contend that he would have a lot more home runs if these balls weren't so dead.
Right. I think that's a good indication that he's not trying to pull the ball every time he's up there too, which is why he's Tony Two Bags, right? You hit it into the gaps.
Exactly.
And that's going to get you to second base. Let me talk about his defense, John, because as Angel fans have been a bit frustrated with him, and they've compared him to Pujols, and you and I have talked about that off air. What I want to point out is that defensively, he is light years ahead of Albert on the field. And here's a couple of stats that I think are really important. First of all, he has 2 defensive runs saved so far this year. And that's a good stat. That'll continue to go up. But here's the one that I actually found most fascinating.
Okay.
So this is a stat that I'm brand new to, and so maybe you are too, and most fans are. It's the total fielding runs above average stat.
Okay.
His number is 13. And so here's what that means. That the Angels are 13 runs ahead when he is playing defense at third base versus the average third baseman in baseball. Does that make sense?
So essentially they are getting scored on 13 times less just because he's at third base. Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's kind of like
similar. It's similar to WAR. It's similar
Yeah.
to like in in basketball and in hockey, there's a plus minus, right? The team
Yeah.
is plus this much, this many goals or baskets when you're on the court or on the ice, or minus this much. This is similar to that. So when Tony Two Bags is playing third base for us, essentially he's saving 15 runs so far this year, and the Angels are 13 plus runs ahead of the team that they're playing if he's playing third. Now if somebody else is in there,
crazy.
they're going to struggle defensively, and the statistics show that. So that's where I think that we really need to be grateful for Tony, because he's playing a solid third base.
Yeah, and he's had some great moments recently, and he's starting to hit more, especially more doubles. He's really living up to the Tony Two Bags name. He's had a few clutch moments too. He hit the walk-off against the Nationals, and I mean, he's really been coming through for this team in the past few weeks. He's playing great defense. I know that when he started out this season, he had a couple of throwing errors, and he was still trying to get his legs and hips under him, but he's making some fantastic plays that you wouldn't see out of an average third baseman. And we spent most of 2021 watching an average third baseman play over there.
Right.
So
yeah.
It's been great to have him back in this lineup. And then he's patient. He's patient at the plate.
Yes.
He's relaxed. And I think he brings a really interesting mood to this team in terms of being calm and collected. And again, that patient approach, I think him and Taylor Ward are the best examples of guys who I can watch them at the plate and not say like, oh, this is an automatic strikeout, or watch them swing and miss. Right. And it's been really nice to have that. And he receives a lot of hate. And I think it has everything to do with people being burned by the Albert Pujols contract and being upset about that. And by extension, the Josh Hamilton contract and all of those bad contracts that we've had over the years. But a lot of people will consider comparing Rendon to Pujols, but I just don't see it. And I keep going back to the first season he was with us. He was top 10 in MVP voting, and I know it was 2020. Last year he was hurt. So I think that if you want to criticize after 2022, be my guest. But let's give him a full season to show what he can do.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And who is going to play third if we're not having him there, right?
Yeah.
Like Tyler Wade's been all over the place, but Tyler Wade isn't going to be Anthony Rendon, at least defensively. We know offensively he's not.
No.
And neither is Matt Duffy. And I've been a fan of Matt Duffy. And I don't see him filling in for Rendon and being successful over there.
No.
And so I really like him there. There was a question on Twitter about like, would Stefanik be able to be somebody that has come up? And I think you and I have been very clear, like Stefanik has a good bat. There's not a guarantee that he's going to hit in the majors, right? But it's his defense that's really questionable. And it's the same thing with Joe Adell, right? With Joe Adell in the outfield, we're just not sure what we're going to get with him. And we might get a few home runs and he'll be streaky. And Stefanik might be the same thing. I think what Rendon brings to our team is consistency, and his average has risen, and you're going to see, I guarantee you, by the end of June, he's going to have some really great stats. They're not going to be mind-blowing Mike Trout or even Taylor Ward stats, but they're going to be consistent stats, right? And you mentioned his home runs. He's got 5 home runs. He's not a home run hitter. And so if he's in the 20 to 25 range at the end of the year, I think that's great. And I think that is what we would want from a third baseman. What I've loved about Rendon is he reminds me of Adrian Beltre and his influence on the Rangers and influence when he played for the Mariners and when he played for the Red Sox. And so I think that he's our Adrian Beltre. We missed out on him. I'm glad we didn't miss out on Rendon. And I think Rendon is only going to help us be more successful this year and in the years to come.
Love it. Well, hey, Locked On Angels is brought to you by Athletic Greens. Now, we all want to be healthy. We want better gut health, more energy, an optimized immune system. But we don't want to take pills and vitamins every single day, do we? So what do? We're going to ask Athletic Greens for help. Athletic Greens, or AG1, is a supplement that actually tastes great. It has a mild tropical taste that you will actually look forward to each morning. So why AG1? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're getting 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and here's your word, Mike, adaptogens to help you start the day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. And AG1 costs you less than $3 a day. And I feel called out by this one. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. I'm talking to myself here.
Shots fired.
And it's healthier too. It's also cheaper than buying all those different supplements separately. This is an all-in-one nutritional investment. So go to athleticgreens.com today and choose better health. And it gets even better. Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/MLB Network to take ownership over your health.
John, it's not a Angels podcast if we don't at least talk about Shohei 76 times, right?
We need to.
So the question that we are wrestling with today is this one. Do we appreciate Shohei Ohtani? Do we as Angel fans appreciate him, right?
I love Shohei Ohtani.
The funny thing is, and the reason why we're asking this question is because there have been some fans from other teams who have said, I just don't think that you're grateful for his talent. So John and I have 2 thoughts. John, I'll share thought number 1. You share thought number 2. So
yes,
the first thought is this. We have appreciated Shohei Ohtani. We have celebrated everything that he has done, even back in 2018 when he pitched, and he pitched well. And then
were
he got
you
hurt.
there in 2018? Because we were there.
Where were you? Where were
you when he got hurt and then hit a home run in the same game? He had to say that he was getting Tommy John surgery.
Yes, I was there when he was starting against the Guardians, and they were playing in our stadium, and we hadn't beaten them in years, and I didn't even make it into the stadium, and the Guardians already hit a home run off of him, and it was a terrible start because he had like a hangnail or something, and we hung in there.
We were there.
And listen, we've celebrated everything that he has done. Every start, we've celebrated every home run, every hit. Last year, man, that was so much fun, and we celebrated that. And here's the thing that you and I have done that I've also heard other Angel fans do. We've been honest about where he can improve, which
of course
is not a frequent conversation. It's not, because it's Shohei Unicorn Ohtani. Like, this guy's incredible. And we've discussed his slow start because he did start slow. But listen, a critique is not criticizing. We're not criticizing this guy at all, because this guy is incredible. But a critique is, hey, I think that he needs to be more patient or stop swinging at that pitch. And obviously we're looking at it through a lens of a fan. And I don't think that because Shohei is a once in a lifetime, once in a generational talent, that you can't actually maybe poke some holes in some of the things that he's doing. And as fans, that's what we're going to do. But listen, we have appreciated Shohei Ohtani. So other fans from other teams, mind your biz, right? What's the second thought, John?
Well, you've got to be objective when looking at any player. I mean, we've been objective about Mike Trout and even Rendon. Like, I know we just talked about Rendon and what he's doing well, but of course there's times where Rendon has been frustrating. Last year was a drag, and we came to find out it's because he was hurt so much.
Right.
And I mean, I love Noah Syndergaard, but I mean, he pooped the bed last week, and we had to talk about it. Like, players are going to have their ups and downs. That's baseball. It's 162 games. Not everyone is perfect all the time. We love the additions to the bullpen. They stunk last week. Raisel Iglesias stunk last week, and he didn't in his last 2 appearances. So that's the way this game goes. And Shohei Ohtani is susceptible to the same kinds of things. We know he's working hard. We know he's doing both. We know that he's DHing and pitching, and that's a lot to ask of one person, but that's the way he wants it. That's the way he's dictating it, and he gets to decide that, which is what we love. They let him be Shohei Ohtani. But here's the second thing. We are appreciating Shohei Ohtani, but what's funny, as Angel fans and announcers from Bally Sports to the radio, as they share their love and appreciation for Ohtani, now people say that we're talking about him too much.
Oh, I know. That's ridiculous. Oh, man, stop talking about his 100 home run. Never. It's that fan. It's the better than Mike Trout fan, right? It's why are you talking about Shohei so much? Or how come you're not appreciating? Mind your biz.
Mind your business. Look, People cannot comprehend what they are seeing at the moment, and they will not truly understand until it's over. And you and I have watched baseball long enough to know that when people come and go, you really miss them. You really miss Ken Griffey Jr. on the Mariners doing his thing.
Yes.
You really miss Michael Jordan on the Chicago Bulls doing his thing. You watched it and you were amazed while it was happening, but then you really look back and realize, man, that was special. Nobody's ever going to do it like that ever again. And the same can be said for Shohei. No one is ever going to be able to do what he's doing at the lengths that he's doing it. There might be two-way players in the future, and I think that he's paving the way for that. But I doubt that we'll see anybody in the next 50, 100 years do it like him. It might be another 100 years before they're comparing one guy to Shohei Ohtani, as there's been 100 years between Babe Ruth and Shohei Ohtani. By the way, Shohei is proving to do it better than Babe Ruth.
He is. Yes, he is.
And that's pretty incredible to see. The same goes with Mike Trout. You and I have been lucky to watch Mike Trout through his entire career. And we stand by the fact that he's the GOAT. He's the most consistent. He's the most enjoyable to watch. And the media has tried to come at the Angels and him as well. And it goes back to that conversation of, oh, is this guy the next Mike Trout? Well, the same thing is happening to Shohei Ohtani. Like, there's nobody like him. You can't compare him to anyone. He continues to amaze. So if you're tired about hearing about Shohei Ohtani, I got news for you. You're going to be hearing about him for a long time. So sorry, he's not on your team.
Turn the channel or follow a different Twitter feed or whatever. But that feels like that's what it is, right? We have appreciated Shohei. We are appreciating Shohei, and fans coming at us are just coming at us because they would want Shohei on their team in a heartbeat.
A heartbeat. Now, for your next heartbeat, for your next listen in the next heartbeat, Mike, where should we send our listeners next?
Our buddy Soli hosts the Locked On MLB podcast, and he brings his unique perspective on the major leagues past and present, and it's free and available wherever you get your podcasts.
That wasn't my best transition. I'm sorry.
But we want to. We'll let you stay.
We'll let it stay. We'll let it slide. We want to thank you for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can reach us at Locked On Angels. Of course, Mike and I are available on Twitter and Instagram at Super Halo Bros. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's episode?
So speaking of two-way players like Shohei Ohtani, I want to talk about the other two-way player, Albert Pujols. I want to talk about the Albert Pujols effect and how his presence has impacted the players and the team. We're going to talk about that tomorrow.
Got it. I'm looking forward to that one. All right. Until tomorrow, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
And we'll see you right here tomorrow on Locked On Angels.